Hey Classic Crew, I got to play 5 hours of Wild Hearts last week, and here are 10 things this game does better than Monster Hunter. In no particular order, let's get started with number 1, open world and exploration. If there's one thing I have felt that has been missing in the Monster Hunter universe, it's open world traversal. We get a little bit of sense of this in Monster Hunter World, but for the most part, the formula of Monster Hunter is you're in your hub, in your city, you got to hunt, you finish your hunt, you come back, and you repeat. And one of the things I hope for the future of Monster Hunter is to see an open world. Now in Wild Hearts, you get that. You are constantly in the wild for as long as you want, and you decide when you want to go back to town. You want to kill 5 monsters on your hunt? Go for it. You want to build a camp, you want to build structures, you want to explore and just collect things, you can do this at any time and stay out there as long as you want, being pretty much a wilderness hermit until you're ready to see more people in town. So open world and exploration is done better. Also, you can climb around on structures very similar to Link in Breath of the Wild with that whole stamina gauge. It seems every game does that now, but now we have it in a hunting game. And along with your building blocks in this game, you can even explore all sorts of new hills and ways by like going with that thing that launches a wire, and you can just climb the wire and get to the top. It's a very cool way to explore this world. Speaking of all the building stuff, number 2 is the KARAKURI mechanics. This is something very unique to Wild Hearts. You don't see this in Monster Hunter, but basically at home, at base, or in combat, you can build not anything you want, but as you progress through the game, you can build all sorts of tools to help you out. Some of these tools at camp include like the blacksmith, or a dry rack to cook some different meats. In combat, you can build all sorts of things from kind of a helicopter thing, a spring that bounces you forward, sideways if you're trying to dodge quickly. You can build walls to stop a rampaging monster, and you can build, what else? What was I able to build? There was one other thing. Oh, the big harpoon gun, which on bigger monsters, you can harpoon into the monster and zip all the way to the top of it and then do your damage there. So it's a very fun way to mix up the combat compared to Monster Hunter, where you're just relying on your weapon. This one is a combination of your weapon as well as your building tools. And it's done very smoothly, not like Fortnite, but more like Breath of the Wild, how you would pull out your magnesis tool or your bombs or anything like that. It's very fluid and very intuitive. Next up on the theme again of the KARAKURI, it's building towns. I do think that Wild Hearts does it better than Monster Hunter. I know in Monster Hunter you can do quests and you see kind of your farm and all these aspects of the town expand, at least in some games like World. I don't think they do that in Rise. But in Wild Hearts, you're pretty much given nothing and you get to build whatever you want, wherever you want, how you want. So the building mechanic is a lot more rewarding, and you can only build if you found the parts in the wild. So you have a whole other set of stuff to build outside of just your armor and weapons. You can now build your town items as well that unlock further features for the game. I mentioned it briefly, but another pro is the fact that you can climb monsters. I'm really surprised we don't really have this in Monster Hunter yet, where you can actually latch onto the monster in ways besides the clutch claw and just kind of damage it. If it's a big monster, I want to be running on that monster and attacking it. Not that different from Zora Magdaros, but on every monster. If they're big, let me jump on them and do things. For the most part, you can't do that on monsters in Monster Hunter, but in Wild Hearts, if they're big enough, you can pretty much walk on them, stay on them, attack them until they throw you off. And it just creates a whole other set of gameplay opportunities of how you fight these monsters. You don't always have to be on the ground with them, but you can be right on them if you want and doing whatever you want. In the same bucket of how it does it better than Monster Hunter, I do find for the most part, these monsters are bigger. So usually in Monster Hunter, you start the game and you're fighting off these little two-legged raptor kind of creatures, and then you have to work your way to the big monsters. This game, they're like, we're going to go big right now. Every monster is pretty much a big, impressive monster to take on right away. Going to the weapons, I do feel the katana is way better than the longsword, especially if you have that samurai itch and you want to relive or live your fantasy as a samurai. The katana just feels more true to what you see like in samurai movies and all of that. It's a lot faster. It's a lot shorter, of course, than the longsword in Monster Hunter, but there's just so much you can do. You can zip, 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 and like you can sheath and sheath. I know you can do that in the Monster Hunter one, but it is way more satisfying in Wild Hearts. If you charge your sword enough with this resource gauge, you can also unleash a whip mechanic on it, and your sword turns into kind of this whip sword, which sure, it's not like a katana, but it feels pretty good. It just basically gives you a katana with more range. And then you add in the Karakuri mechanics with the katana, so you can do like some helm splitting and all of that. It just does so many cool things that you just can't do in Monster Hunter with its longsword. Another cool feature of Wild Hearts is the enrage mode of kimonos, aka monsters. So at the end of your fight, when there's maybe 10-15% of its health left, it's going to go enrage, where it really comes out with more devastating attacks. It's harder to hit, harder to find openings, and it's going to stay in rage until the end of the fight. So it pretty much, if you're having a good hunt, at the end the game goes, step it up to finish it or you die. So it really lifts that intensity of a hunt, which Monster Hunter does that when the monster gets in rage, but you can knock a monster out of being in rage, and you won't always finish with an enraged monster in Monster Hunter. So that mechanic, appreciated, way better in Wild Hearts. Finishers. You have very cool cinematic finishers that you can pull off. Once the monster is dead, you'll get a prompt that you can just hit to do your finisher on the monster, and you look stylish. This isn't even available in Monster Hunter. You oftentimes hit the monster and then it can be a really weak punk, or like in my case, you clutch claw fatalis, and that's what kills them. So this is a pro in some sense. I do think it might get old though, because it seems to be always the same finisher. Now, if they add a bunch of different types of finishers that you can do, I think it'll stay a pro in Wild Hearts compared to Monster Hunter. This one, I think everyone will agree on. Wild Hearts has been confirmed to be cross-play. So it doesn't matter what you play on, you're going to be able to play with your friends. And this has been something that's been somewhat controversial in the Monster Hunter community. Why the heck, if I have a version on my Switch, can't I play with my friends on PC? It really sucked on Rise having that division of community. It also sucks in World. It sucked in every version of Monster Hunter where you just can't play with your friends. Finally, there's a hunting game where it doesn't matter what platform you're on. Let's go. We can hunt together. One criticism we've always had with Monster Hunter is the fact that the story has always been a little bit lacking. And to be fair, we don't really play Monster Hunter for the story. It's for the hunts, the adrenaline rush, and fashion hunting, whatever it is you like to do. But I always felt that there was an opportunity for more story, and this is something Wild Hearts seems to lean on more, while maintaining a good balance of hunt to story. There's a lot more dialogue going on between characters. Your main character gets to have more dialogue options when conversing with NPCs. The voice acting is beautiful. The music that just puts the story, there's more like cinematics as you arrive in different areas. It's just a deeper story experience from what I can tell in the early segments of the game compared to Monster Hunter. And finally, the final 10th reason why I think Wild Hearts does better than Monster Hunter, I think it is way more accessible for new players. I was someone who was completely turned off by Monster Hunter. I couldn't get into it. It was too intimidating. Wild Hearts just boils it all down, makes it more like action-y kind of game. It doesn't overwhelm you with all these menus, all these things you can do. It introduces you very gradually. The weapons are simpler, and we're going to get into that in another video if that's a pro or con. But in this case, for beginners, it's a pro. And all the menus are a lot easier to navigate. There's more limited information to take on. And so if you are new to the hunting genre, I think Wild Hearts is a great way to get into the genre, because it's very similar to action-adventure games like Breath of the Wild, but it does take a step into the hunting genres like Monster Hunter, easing you in without expecting you to know what the last 15 years of this IP expects from you. And that is potentially a huge game changer to bring a new IP into this realm of hunting games. So those are my 10 reasons why I think Wild Hearts is going to be better than Monster Hunter, or what they do better than Monster Hunter. Of course, I could be wrong as the game releases in a couple months, but if you want to see my criticisms of things I think that are worse in Wild Hearts than Monster Hunter, do check out this video. And I've also got a full impressions video of my entire 5-hour playthrough of the game, so check either of those one out, and I will see you later on another video. Until then, keep it classy.